The alarm started at 3:17 a.m., Earth Standard Time. Hospitals across the world reported strange power surges. Emergency generators failed, lights flickered, monitors went dead. In the darkness, doctors and nurses rushed to keep patients alive by hand. In New York at St. Mary's Medical Center, Dr. Elena Ruiz grabbed a flashlight. Her hands shook. The ICU machines had gone silent. She could still hear the faint beeping of heart monitors powered by backup batteries. She was trying to save a child with a collapsed lung when she heard it. A loud crash from the front doors. Glass shattered. Gunfire. Followed screams, real screams, not the cries of injured people, but the terrified, helpless screams of nurses. And medics? Alina froze. Her heart pounded. Then she heard boots. Heavy metallic boots. Dozens of them. Getting closer, she peeked out into the hallway and saw them black-armored aliens. Their armor was thick, covered in strange red symbols. Their helmets had glowing green eyes. They moved quickly, like predators, sweeping room to room. They weren't searching for soldiers. They were hunting doctors, nurses, paramedics, anyone. Wearing a medical badge, Alina ducked back into the supply closet and sent one last emergency broadcast. From her CumDash link, her voice was shaky but clear. "This is St. Mary's. You're under attack. They're killing the medics. Please help us. Anyone, please." Then the door burst open. The transmission ended. Across the planet, the same nightmare unfolded. In London, a trauma center burned. In Beijing, a children's hospital was bombed. In Nairobi, medical drones delivering vaccines were shot from the sky. Even off-world medics on Mars and Luna. Colonies reported coordinated strikes. Alien gunships rained plasma over their landing zones. Medical tents turned into fire pits. The attackers had a name, the Dravari Collective. No warning, no declaration of war, no demands, just death. And their target was clear. Earth's medics. The Terran Council held an emergency meeting in orbit. President Hale stood in front of the galactic broadcast cameras. His face was pale. His voice cracked with anger. "They did not strike our soldiers. They did not target our weapons. They came for our healers, our aid workers, our civilians. This was a war crime against humanity." Billions across Earth watched in horror as footage played on every screen. A nurse shielding children with her body, shot point blank. A medic trying to save a wounded soldier. It's executed mid-operation. Hospitals reduced to rubble. Bodies lined the streets. Even hardened generals had tears in their eyes, but something else stirred too. A growing, burning rage, far below, in a hidden base under Antarctica. A cold, dark room came to life. Red emergency lights flashed on. A locked door hissed open. Rows of cryopods stood inside. Inside them, men and women slept in frozen silence. Genetically enhanced, cybernetically upgraded. Humanity's most feared unit. Forgotten for years. Buried, because they were considered too dangerous, too brutal, too uncontrollable. But now, their time had come again. A single voice crackled over the intercom. Cold and commanding. "Project Angel. Activate." Inside the pods, eyes opened. Some glowed faint red from implanted vision systems. Without a word, soldiers stepped out. They began putting on black armor, heavier and scarier than any normal human military suit. Each piece clicked into place, each helmet sealed tight. One soldier picked up a helmet with a faded red cross painted on the side, a reminder of what they used to be. Medics once, healers now. Executioners back in space. The Dravari fleet watched Earth's broadcast channels with amusement. On board the Dravari flagship commander, Jexel laughed. "Look at them cry. Look at their weak leaders beg for help. Earth has no teeth." His officers joined the laughter. They didn't see the new launch signals coming from Antarctica. They didn't notice the black ships leaving Earth's atmosphere, flying silent and fast. They didn't know that death was already coming for them. Back on Earth, a single Terran admiral stood in the war room. Her voice was low but clear. We gave them medics. They gave us dead bodies. Now, we send the angels. The people of Earth stayed awake that night, watching the skies, waiting. They didn't know where the angels were going. They didn't know how long it would take. But deep down, they knew one thing for sure. Humanity would answer. And this time, there would be no mercy. Deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, the cold air hummed with power, hidden for years. The underground facility called Black Ridge had stayed silent. No one talked about it. No news channels mentioned it. Even most generals didn't know. It existed. But now, doors were opening. Massive steel gates pulled apart with a loud groan. Lights blinked to life in the long, dark corridors. Computers that hadn't powered up in years now glowed with data streams. One voice echoed through the base's speakers. It was cold, it was clear, and it gave just one order. Project Angel, full activation. In the cryo bay, rows of human soldiers began to wake. Their eyes opened slowly. Some had normal human eyes. Others had bright red or cold blue mechanical implants. A few had no visible eyes at all, just black, glass-like sensors. Their bodies were pale but powerful, scarred. Rebuilt, enhanced. They stood up from the cryopods without hesitation. Like machines following a program. These were not normal soldiers. They were the result of a dark project created long ago, during the worst days of the Galactic Rebellion. A project meant to build the perfect killers. People called them many names. But, to the enemy, they were simply known as the Angels of Death. Commander Rourke stepped into the briefing room. He was tall, bald, with half of his face made of metal. His left eye glowed red. His voice was deep and steady. No emotion, no fear. He stood in front of the soldiers. Now assembling in rows, their black armor pieces waiting beside them, Rourke spoke only facts. 2 days ago, the Dravari Collective attacked Earth. They didn't target our armies. They didn't target our weapons. They killed our medics. A pause. The room stayed silent. No soldier moved. No one asked questions. Rourke continued. Hospitals, field clinics, refugee camps, butchered them all. Doctors, nurses, paramedics, civilians who were just trying to save lives. His metal hand clenched into a fist. We have been called. Finally, the soldiers began pulling on their black armor, piece by piece. Each piece clicked into place with deadly purpose. Helmets sealed shut, weapons charged, blades, pulse rifles, anti-armor explosives. All custom designed for one purpose, killing. In the weapons bay, Sergeant Kale checked his squad's loadouts. Kale was a former battlefield medic before joining Project Angel. He had once saved lives on the front lines. Now, he specialized in ending them. He loaded a belt of high-impact grenades onto his chest and whispered to himself, "You hurt my people.
Ow!
You'll meet the other side of medicine." Next to him, Specialist Mira adjusted her long-range plasma rifle. She had been a trauma surgeon once. Her steady hands now lined up kill shots from miles away. In the flight hangar, black dropships stood ready. Their hulls were designed to absorb radar. Their engines left almost no heat trail. Stealth technology far beyond normal Earth fleets. Each dropship had a call sign. One stood out more than the others. On its side, painted in red, "Mercy Denied." The Angels loaded onto the ships. Inside the cockpit, the pilot entered the coordinates. Their first target. A Dravari listening post near the outer colonies. It was lightly guarded, easy, perfect for sending a message. Before launch, Commander Rourke stood at the center of the bay and gave one final speech. His voice rang out across the base. Heard in every helmet come, they took our healers. They thought we would stay quiet. They forgot one thing. When you kill the people who save lives, the people trained to take lives come next. A cold pause. Mission rules. No mercy. No prisoners. No limits. The engines roared to life. The dropships lifted off one by one, vanishing into the dark sky. Hours later, on a Dravari listening post orbiting a dead moon, the enemy soldiers stood bored at their stations. They laughed, joked. Some even replayed the Earth hospital attack footage. On their monitors, making cruel comments, they had no idea. Death was already coming, at exactly 3 o'clock hours. The lights on the Dravari station flickered. The gravity generators locked tether. Doors locked. Oxygen systems shut down. Panic spread. Fast. One Dravari officer shouted into the comms. "We're under systems attack. Unknown source." Seconds later, the first breach. A side wall exploded inward. Black armored humans poured. In silent, fast, precise. They didn't speak. They didn't shout orders. They simply moved from room to room. Clearing every corridor, one Dravari grabbed a plasma rifle and fired. The nearest angel dodged the shot, closed the distance in 2 steps, and drove a blade through the alien's throat. Another angel tossed a stun grenade. Down a hallway, it exploded in a flash of white light, before the stunned Dravari soldiers could recover. They were gunned down, inside the control room. The Dravari commander watched in horror as the station's cameras showed one thing: human soldiers in black armor, moving like predators, leaving no survivors. His hands shook as he sent a final distress call. "We're being overrun. They're human. They're not normal." The transmission cut off. Back on the lead dropship, Commander Rourke watched the data stream. Mission complete. 0. Human casualties. 100% enemy elimination. He leaned back in his chair and smiled for the first time in years. It wasn't a happy smile. It was cold, empty, dangerous. "Let the Dravari fleet hear about this," he said. "Let them know. The angels are awake." Ship turned toward the next target. The hunt had begun, and this time, there would be no peace. The Dravari outpost on Gamma 6, a small mining colony near the edge of human space, was quiet. The air was thin. The ground was covered in black dust. Mining drills hummed day and night. Inside the Dravari command center, a group of alien soldiers sat around a table, laughing loudly. On the screen in front of them played footage from the Earth attacks. A nurse screaming. A hospital burning. One Dravari officer, Captain Velker, leaned back and grinned. Humans, soft and weak, they cry. Over dead medics, they beg for mercy. Another soldier raised a glass of dark liquid to the fall of Earth's healers. They all cheered. None of them noticed the motion sensor alarms had gone offline. None of them noticed the cameras were already hacked. None of them heard the stealth dropship landing just outside the colony walls in the blackness of the night. The angels of death moved like shadows. Commander Rourke led the squad by his side. Sergeant Kale checked his explosives. Mira, the sniper, stayed at the back, her rifle already aimed at the Dravari lookout towers. The plan was simple: hit hard, hit fast, leave nothing standing. Rourke spoke quietly through the comm. "Rules are the same. No prisoners, no witnesses." The angels spread out. They moved through the dust. Storms without making a sound. Their armor absorbed the wind. Their boots left no prints. They became ghosts. Inside the outpost, Captain Velker's communicator buzzed. Static. He frowned. "Communications down?" Again. Growled. He stood up, annoyed, and walked toward the control room. That's when explosion hit. The west wall of the barracks erupted in fire. Dravari soldiers screamed as they were thrown into the air. Before the dust settled, Kale and 2 angels charged in, firing pulse rifles at anything that moved. The aliens barely had time to grab their weapons. On the east side, Mira pulled the trigger from her sniper nest, one by one. Dravari guards on the towers fell without even knowing what hit them. Laser rounds cut through armor like paper. No alarms were raised. No warnings sent. The attack was surgical. Deadly Captain Velker grabbed his rifle and ran outside. The sky was dark. Fires burned across the outpost. His soldiers were dying all around him. He saw dark shapes moving through the smoke. Human soldiers in black armor. They didn't speak. They didn't hesitate. They killed with brutal precision. Velker screamed. Into his cum. This is Gamma 6. We are under attack. Unknown human strike team? Request immediate backup. No answer. His communications tower was already gone. In the main courtyard, Rourke walked calmly through the chaos. Bullets flew past him, but his shield implants absorbed most of the damage. A Dravari gunner tried to mount a heavy plasma turret before he could fire. Rourke threw a thermal grenade straight at him. The turret exploded, sending burning metal across the area. Rourke turned to his squad. Sweep the tunnels. Leave nothing behind. The Angels split into teams. They cleared the underground. Bunkers first. Every hiding Dravari was dragged out or shot in place. No mercy, no hesitation. Deep inside the mines, a group of Dravari engineers tried to seal themselves behind blast doors. Kale placed a shaped charge on the door. He smiled under his helmet. Knock, knock. The explosion ripped the doors apart. The Angels rushed in, rifles blazing. The engineers fell where they stood. Within just 15 minutes, the entire outpost fell silent. Smoke rose into the air. The ground was littered with alien bodies. Not a single Dravari survived. Rourke stood at the center of the courtyard, breathing steady. Mira walked up, her sniper rifle slung over her shoulder. First blood, she said simply. Rourke nodded. Send the signal. Kale pulled out a small beacon from his pack. He placed it in the dirt, right where Captain Velker's body lay. The beacon blinked, then began broadcasting on open Dravari military frequencies. A single message repeated over and over. 4. Every medic you killed, we will take 100 of yours. The message looped endlessly. The Dravari ships nearby picked up the signal within minutes. Fear spread fast. In a nearby Dravari patrol ship, Lieutenant Garrick heard the broadcast. He froze. His eyes widened. He turned to his crew. It's them. The human strike teams. They're back. Panic filled the ship. Garrick knew the story's old war legends. Humans with black armor and red crosses. Silent killers. He looked at the blinking location marker. They're on Gamma 6, and they're waiting for us. The ship changed course. Moving away from the system at full speed, Garrick didn't want to end up like the others. Back on the ground, the Angels loaded back onto their drops, inside the cockpit. Rourke checked the next target coordinates. Another Dravari supply station. Another hunting ground, before liftoff. Kale looked back at the burning outpost and muttered, "This is just the start." The engines roared. The ships vanished into the stars. The hunt was far from over. The Dravari had spilled human blood. Now, the Angels of Death would paint the galaxy red. The Dravari fleet commander, Admiral Vekra, stood on the bridge of his warship, the Shadow Fang. His face was tense. His officers stayed quiet. Reports from Gamma 6 were coming in. They were all bad. An entire outpost. Gone. Dozens of soldiers. Dead, no survivors. The worst part, there had been no warning, no distress calls. The human attackers had disappeared like ghosts. Vekra slammed his fist on the control panel. "Who are they?" he demanded. A junior officer spoke nervously. "We don't." "No, Admiral. They didn't leave bodies behind for study. They burned everything." Another officer added, "They left a message." "Sir, it's still broadcasting." Vekra turned toward the holoscreen. The message played again. A single human voice, cold and full of hate. "For every medic you killed, we will take 100 of yours." Vekra's hands shook. For the first time in his career, he felt fear. On board the human dropships, Commander Rourke watched the enemy fleet scatter. They weren't just running, they were panicking. The Angels had hit 3 more Dravari listening posts in the past 48 hours. Each attack was fast, brutal. No survivors. But now, it was time for something different. Not just killing, not just strikes. Now, it was time to break their minds. Inside the Angels' command room, Sergeant Kale set down a box on the table. Inside, were small metal plates, each one covered in blood-red paint. On each plate, a single symbol was carved deep, the Terran Medical Cross. The line scratched through it. It was a warning. Rourke gave the order. Deliver these to their next command. Post. The Angels loaded the plates into small, drones-fast, silent messenger units. The drones jumped into hyperspace, programmed to land on Dravari ships and stations without being detected. On the Dravari outpost, Delta 7, alarms rang when one of the drones crashed into the landing bay. The guards rushed over. No bombs. No weapons. Just a small metal box. Curious. The Dravari commander opened it. Inside, the blood-marked metal plates next to them. Small data drive. The commander plugged it into the system. A video began to play. The screen showed grainy footage. Dravari squad hiding in a bunker. Suddenly, black-armored, humans bursting in. Screams, gunfire, blood on the walls, then static. Another clip played. Dravari soldiers running through a forest at night. They fell one by one. Sniper shots from nowhere. Death from the dark. Then another clip. A group of Dravari medics begging for help. Human voice answering coldly. No mercy for your kind. The screen went black. The final image. The Terran Medical Cross. Burning. Back on the Shadowfang, Admiral Vekra watched the footage in horror. He slammed his fists on the console. Who made this? Shouted. The communication officer shook his head. It was encoded, impossible to trace. But we think it came from them. The human strike teams. Another officer whispered. They're playing with us, sir. They want us afraid. Vekra's eyes narrowed. Well, it's working. In the following days, things got worse for the Dravari. On patrol Route 16, a supply convoy vanished on Station X9. The crew was found, every single one dead, with their throats cut. On Colony Nara, a broadcast station was hijacked. For 20 minutes, every screen showed images of dead Dravari soldiers, and the words, "We were healers. Now we are hunters." Inside the Angels' war room, Mira and Kale watched as Dravari fleets rerouted away from human borders. Supply lines collapsed. Morale broke. Entire Dravari squads refused to leave their barracks. Some even deserted their posts. Terrified they'd be next? Mira smirked. They're scared. Kale loaded another magazine into his rifle. Good. Let them stay scared. Rourke stood nearby, looking over the next target list. He pointed at a Dravari officer transport ship. This. One's carrying high command staff. It's time to hit something bigger. Kale grinned. Time to send a louder message. The Angels deployed fast. Their stealth ships jumped into Bari space. They tracked the transport through a dust nebula. The Dravari escorts were distracted, too focused on searching for fleet-sized human attacks. They didn't expect a small strike team. The Angels boarded the ship mid-flight. Room by room, they cleared the decks. No time for the Dravari officers to escape. No time to send distress signals before leaving. Kale activated a final gift, a hacked transmission. It played live on all Dravari military channels. The image showed the captured officers kneeling, hands bound, the Angels standing behind them. The voice of Commander Rourke spoke over the feed. For every doctor you killed, for every child you left bleeding, this is your payback. The feed cut out. The Dravari never saw their officers again. Back on the Shadowfang, Admiral Vekras's face turned pale. His comms officer turned to him. Admiral, requests for surrender are coming in from multiple Dravari units. They don't want to fight anymore. Vekra stared at the screen. He whispered to himself, we didn't just wake their soldiers. We woke their nightmares. The Angels of Death didn't slow down. They moved from target to target. Every outpost, every ship, every commander gone. The galaxy was watching, and the message was clear. You don't attack Earth's medics unless you're ready to face Earth's Angels of Death. The Angels of Death had hit 12 Dravari targets in just 5 days. Outposts burned. Ships disappeared. Officers vanished. The Dravari. Fleets were in chaos, but deep inside the Dravari War Council chambers, a new plan was forming. Admiral Vecra stood. Over the star map, his hands trembled with anger. "Enough running," he growled. "Enough hiding." Vecra's eyes locked on a cluster of rocks, spinning near the edge of human space. The Drexer asteroid belt. Thousands of massive rocks, floating in the cold dark. No planets, no colonies, just shadows. Perfect for an ambush. Vecra smiled for the first time in days. This is where we stop them. In orbit above Earth, Commander Rourke studied the latest reports. Kale entered the war room, tossing a datapad onto the table. "We found them," Kale said. A Dravari command ship hiding near the Drexer belt. Mira stood nearby, checking her sniper modules. "It's too quiet," she said. "Feels like a trap." Rourke nodded. "It is a trap." Kale frowned. "We're still going?" Rourke's voice stayed cold and steady. "Of course, let them think they're clever." The Angels geared up. Their dropship engines hummed to life. Black holes. Silent flight. They jumped into hyperspace, heading straight for the asteroid belt. Hours later, the Angels arrived near Drexer. The belt stretched out before them, a twisting sea of rocks, some as big as cities. There's no larger than cars. Sensors showed faint Dravari signals deep inside. Kale tapped the console. "I'm picking up energy readings. Small, spread out. Could be decoys." Rourke narrowed his eyes. "They're waiting for us." He opened a channel to the squad. "Standard infiltration. Stay sharp. Expect heavy resistance." The dropship split into 3 groups. They slid between the asteroids, using the rocks as cover. Their stealth fields kept them hidden. For now, inside one asteroid, Admiral Vecra watched from his command bunker. Dozens of Dravari warships floated nearby, engines cold, weapons armed waiting. Vecra grinned. Let them come. As soon as the Angels entered the belt center, the trap was sprung. Alarms screamed on the human ships. Kale shouted over the comms, "Multiple enemy signatures. They're all around us." From the darkness, Dravari ships powered up. Plasma cannons opened fire. The first human dropship took a direct hit. It exploded in a ball of flame. Rourke's dropship shook violently as debris flew past. "Evasive maneuvers," he barked. The Angels dove behind nearby asteroids, but the Dravari were ready. Mines detonated across the field. Explosions lit up the black. Sky rocks shattered. The space between the asteroids became a death trap. On board a Dravari destroyer, Captain Jekker laughed. "We have them now. They thought they could hunt us forever, but now they're the prey." Dozens of enemy fighters launched. They swarmed toward the remaining human drops. Outboard, but they were outgunned, but they were outnumbered, outgunned, pinned. "Down!" Kale's voice came through the radio. "Commander, we're boxed in. We can't maneuver." Rourke stayed calm. "We don't run." Inside the dropship, Mira climbed into the gunner's seat. Her eyes scanned for enemy weak points. She locked onto a cluster of Dravari fighters near a fuel station asteroid. She squeezed the trigger. A barrage of railgun rounds cut through the enemy formation. 3 enemy ships exploded. "Got 'em," Mira said with a cold smile. But more kept coming. The Dravari numbers seemed endless. Rourke opened a private come-to. "Kale, you still carrying the core charge?" Kale hesitated. "Yeah, but that's for emergency use only." Rourke's voice dropped low. "This is an emergency." Kale understood. Rourke's dropship pushed toward the densest part of the belt. Dravari ships chased close behind. "Kale, grab the core charge, a small, glowing device. It's unstable and deadly. It was designed to wipe out anything within a 10-kilometer radius." Rourke spoke to the team. "We're punching a hole. Kale, you're on detonation?" Kale nodded. He strapped the charge to his chest and grabbed a mag booster to propel himself through space. "It's been an honor, Commander," Kale said. Rourke replied simply, "Make it count." Kale launched. Himself from the drop, he drifted fast between the rocks. Dodging enemy fire, the Dravari spotted him too late. By the time they realized what he was carrying, he was already near the center of their fleet cluster. Kale floated just long enough. To arm the device, he whispered one final line, "For St. Mary's Hospital, and everyone we lost." He hit the trigger. The explosion was massive. Light filled the belt. Asteroids. Dozens of Dravari ships were torn apart. The shockwave blasted through the field, throwing debris everywhere. Even Rourke's dropship rocked violently from the force. When the light faded, silence returned. The Dravari fleet was crippled, their ambush destroyed, but Kale was gone. In the aftermath, the Angels regrouped. They had lost ships. They had lost people. But they were alive, and they had sent a new message. Even when trapped, even when outnumbered, they would not break. On board the surviving Dravari ships, fear spread like wildfire. Admiral Vekra watched from a damaged control room. His fleet gone, his ambush failed. And worst of all, the Angels were still out there hunting, waiting, coming as Rourke's dropship flew toward the next target. Mira sat quietly, her hands tightened around her rifle. She spoke softly. Kale wouldn't. "Want us to stop?" Rourke nodded, his voice cold, his heart hard. "We don't stop until it's over." The Angels of Death moved on, and the galaxy trembled. The news of the ambush and the Drexer asteroid belt spread fast across human space. The Terran Council gathered in orbit around Earth. Holograms of destroyed dropships appeared in the center of the war room. Pictures of fallen angels, including Kale, flashed across the screens. Admiral Lorna Hayes stood at the front of the room. Her voice was cold, her face hard. "They trapped our soldiers. They killed one of our best. It's time we show them what Earth really is." Her fist slammed. Onto the table, full fleet mobilization. No more small strikes. No more warnings. All around her, military officers nodded. One general whispered under his breath, "Let's turn their sky to fire." Within hours, the largest human fleet in history began to move. From Mars, Luna, from Jupiter's shipyards. Warships lifted off BATTLECRs, destroyers, carrier groups, thousands of ships, all heading toward Dravari space. The operation had one name, Operation Black Mercy. On board the flagship TSF Vengeance, Commander Rourke stood in the observation deck. He wore his Black Angel armor, but now he wasn't alone. Behind him stood entire divisions of Earth's finest soldiers, Marines, Fleet Command crews, orbital, bombardment teams, and the remaining Angels of Death. Rourke's voice stayed low. "They thought we were just ghosts. Now they'll see our armies." Myra stood next to him, loading her sniper rifle. Her face still carried the pain of losing. "Kale, let's make them pay," she whispered, deep inside Dravari space. Admiral Vekra watched his scanners with dread. The human fleet appeared on the edge of the system. Thousands of ships, more than he had ever seen in one place. A Dravari officer screamed. "They've brought everything." Vukra barked orders. "Scramble all fighters. Activate defense grids. Call every available ship." But inside, he knew they couldn't win this. The human fleet opened fire first. Long range. Kinetic cannons lit up the black sky. Railgun slugs the size of trucks tore through Dravari. Defensive platforms, missiles followed. Swarming drones, laser strikes the first. Wave of Dravari stations exploded within minutes. Their orbital defense lines fell apart like glass under a hammer. On board the Vengeance, Admiral Hayes gave her next order. Begin atmospheric strikes. Planetary targets on nearby Dravari colonies lit up. Human bombers rained down. Energy blasts and bunker buster torpedoes. Military outposts turned to dust. Factories burned. Dravari civilians ran for shelter. But even deep bunkers weren't safe. The Angels of Death were already there, clearing out strongholds from the inside in one Dravari command center. Officers tried to organize a retreat, But just as they gathered, the ceiling caved in. Mira dropped down from above, sniper in hand. Her shots were fast and deadly. Within seconds, the command team was gone. Back in space, the Terran Navy pushed deeper. Dravari warships tried to fight back. They charged forward, weapons firing in every direction, but the human fleet formation was too tight. Two experienced Terran destroyers flanked enemy cruisers. Fighter swarms took out larger ships' engines. Carrier-based gunships punched holes straight through Dravari hulls. On board a Dravari dreadnought, Captain Relvac shouted, "We're surrounded. We can't hold," before he could give the order to retreat. 3 Terran battleships locked onto his position. Their main cannons fired at the same time. Relvac's ship broke apart in a ball of fire. The Dravari homeworld's outer defenses fell next. Planetary shields flickered, then collapsed. On the surface, Dravari leaders watched in horror as Earth's fleet moved into orbital strike position. One counselor screamed, "They're going to wipe us out." Another whispered, "We should have never touched their medics." Admiral Hayes opened a fleet-wide broadcast. Her face appeared on every human ship, every Terran Marine helmet, every Angel of Death visor. Her voice was steady. "They slaughtered our healers. They thought we'd stay quiet. Now we answer." She gave the final order: full planetary bombardment. From orbit, the sky turned white. Thousands of energy beams and plasma strikes rained down. Dravari, cities burned. Military installations vanished. Entire mountain ranges cracked apart from the force. The planet shook under the power of Earth's anger inside the burning cities. The Angels of Death moved street by street. They cleared out bunkers, destroyed last command centers. Any Dravari soldier who fought died. Any who surrendered were ignored. There would be no prisoners, no mercy. Not this time, Admiral. Vekra watched from a small escape vessel. His once-proud fleet destroyed his homeworld, burning his people, running for their lives. For the first time, he felt true defeat, true fear, and worst of all, he knew this was just the beginning. On board the Vengeance, Rourke stood with Mira and the remaining angels. They watched the fires below. Mira lowered her rifle. "Do you think they've learned their lesson?" she asked. Rourke shook his head. "Not yet." He turned toward the next set of coordinates. But they will. The human fleet began moving toward the next target. The war was far from over, and Earth's fury was just getting started. The planet Dravari Prime stood in the middle of the enemy's space. It was dark and covered with thick green clouds. Giant cities stretched across its surface. Black metal towers rose high into the sky. This was the heart of the Dravari Collective, the place where every war order had started, including the attack on Earth's medics. Now, Earth's full fury was coming here. Admiral Vekra stood inside the last Dravari command bunker. His face was pale, his hand shook. "Status report." He barked. An officer answered quickly. "All outer defense fleets gone. All orbital platforms destroyed. Ground forces preparing for the final defense." Vekra's throat tightened. "What about reinforcements?" The officer stayed silent. There were none. In orbit above the planet, the Terran fleet hung like a wall of steel. Thousands of ships, fighters, bombers, destroyers, BATTLECRs, and at the front, the flagship TSF Vengeance, Commander. Rourke stood inside the dropship bay with Myra and the last remaining angels. His armor was scratched. Burn marks covered his left shoulder, but his eyes were cold and clear. "This is it," he said. Mira locked a new power cell into her sniper rifle. One last mission. The dropships roared to life. Engines glowed bright. The Angels of Death boarded in silence. No speeches, no goodbyes, only action. On the surface of Dravari Prime, sirens screamed across the cities. Dravari soldiers ran to defense towers and hair turrets. Powered-up missile launchers locked. On to targets. The Dravari were ready to make their last stand. They had nowhere else to run. The first Terran attack wave hit hard, from orbit. Earth's bombers unleashed a rain of plasma strikes. City blocks crumbled. Defense. Towers fell. Fire filled the air. But still, the Dravari kept fighting. Their soldiers poured out of bunkers. They fired anti-ship cannons at the sky. They set up kill zones along the main streets. They waited for the humans to land. At exactly 0600 hours, the angels of death landed there. Dropships slammed down onto the surface. Hatches burst open. The angels flashed out. Black armor, red visors, silent deadly dot. Commander Rourke led the charge. "No prisoners," he said over the squad come. The angels moved street by street, firing, clearing, advancing. Mira climbed to the top of a ruined tower. Her sniper rifle locked onto targets. She picked off Dravari gunners one by one. Each shot perfect. Each shot final. On the ground, Rourke's squad pushed through the main defense line. Explosions shook the streets. Dravari soldiers fired from rooftops, but the angels kept moving forward. Hand-to-hand combat broke out near the central plaza. Blades, shotguns, grenades. The air turned thick with smoke and dust. Dravari soldiers screamed in terror as the angels appeared out of nowhere, cutting them down. Inside the main command bunker, Admiral Vekra watched the battle feeds. He saw his soldiers falling. He saw his defense lines breaking. He turned to his officers. "Seal the bunker. Prepare for close defense." Metal doors slammed shut. Gun turrets turned toward the bunker entrance. Vekra grabbed a plasma rifle. For the first time in his life, he prepared to fight with his own hands. Outside the bunker, Rourke and Mira stood side by side. They stared at the heavy blast doors. Mira pulled out a charge pack. "We can blow it open," she said. Rourke shook his head. "No need." He pointed to the sky. Overhead, Terran heavy drop bomber hovered, its main cannon charged with glowing energy. Rourke gave the signal. A single shot fired. The bunker entrance exploded inward. Steel twisted. Concrete vaporized. The path was clear. The angels entered. First blades drawn, guns ready. The final. Dravari officers fired desperately. It didn't matter. The angels moved fast, precise, deadly, within minutes. The bunker was silent. Dravari bodies covered the floor. Only one enemy remained. Admiral Vekra, he stood, back against the wall, holding his rifle with shaking hands. Rourke approached him slowly, helmet still on, visor glowing red. Vekra dropped his weapon. He fell to his knees. "Mercy," he whispered. Rourke tilted his head slightly. "Did you show mercy? Did the doctors at St. Mary's? Or the nurses in Nairobi? Or the children's hospital on Luna?" Vekra lowered his head. I was following orders." Rourke raised his sidearm. "So am I." One shot. It was over. The angels cleared the rest of the bunker. Outside, the human fleet was already landing reinforcements. Earth had taken Dravari Prime. The war was almost finished. Mira walked over to Rourke. "What now?" she asked. Rourke looked at the burning sky, at the Terran flags rising over the enemy capital. "Now we finish it." The angels of death stood together, bloodied, exhausted, but undefeated. And somewhere, deep in every Dravaris mind, one truth remained. You never target Earth's medics. Not if you want to live. Dravari Prime burned. Smoke covered the sky. The once great cities lay in ruins. Tall towers had fallen. Bunkers had been turned to ash. Entire armies had been wiped out. The war was over. But the fear was just beginning. Commander Rourke stood on a balcony overlooking the destroyed Dravari capital. His black angel armor was scratched and blood-stained. Next to him stood Mira, her sniper rifle resting on her shoulder. Terran flags waved across the city. Human soldiers walked the streets. Clearing the last of the enemy bunkers, medical teams moved quickly. This time, protected by armored guards, no one would hurt Earth's healers again, not while the angels still breathed in the heart of the Dravari government building. Terran engineers set up a special broadcast station. Wires ran across broken walls. satellites locked onto galactic frequencies. Commander Rourke stepped in front of the camera. He removed his helmet for the first time. The galaxy saw the face of the man who had led the Angels of Death. His expression was cold. His eyes, full of controlled rage. The feed went live, across hundreds of star systems, on thousands of screens. The message played. Rourke's voice was deep and steady. To every government, to every army, to every species watching this, transmission. A pause. He stared straight into the camera. We were healers. We sent doctors, nurses, Panex, to help the sick, to save the wounded, to show mercy. He leaned forward, and you slaughtered them. A video began playing behind him. Footage of the destroyed human hospitals, civilians screaming, medics dying, children covered in blood. Then, images of the Angels of Death, raids on enemy outposts, explosions, fleet battles, Dravari soldiers running, screaming, dying. Rourke continued. Let this be clear. Earth does not forget. Earth does not forgive. Another pause. If any of you ever target our healers again. The screen shifted to show the burning remains of Dravari Prime. Cities in flames, skies black with smoke, dead fleets drifting in orbit. This will happen to you. The screen cut to black, broadcast over in Dravari refugee camps across nearby systems. Survivors watched the transmission. Fear spread like wildfire. Some Dravari threw down their weapons. Others destroyed old propaganda. Films that mocked Earth. The message was clear. The Angels of Death were real, and no one wanted them coming back on the surface of Dravari Prime. Mira sat near a small memorial built by the surviving angels. A black stone stood in the middle. On it, a simple list of names. Every Earth's medic who had died in the first attack. Kale's name was there too. Myra placed a small Terran medical badge at the base of the stone. She whispered softly, "It's done." Commander Rourke stood nearby, looking at the stars. Admiral Hayes walked up behind him. "You did what had to be done," she said. Rourke stayed quiet for a moment. Then he finally spoke. "They wanted war. They got it." He turned away. "Now, let's bring our people home." The Terran fleet began to pull back. Dropships lifted from the planet's surface. Warships turned toward Earth, but the warning they left behind stayed burned into history. For the first time in generations, the galaxy understood. You don't touch Earth's medics. You don't test Earth's mercy, because when you do, you awaken the Angels of Death. And the next time, there might be no one left to send a warning.